Hello peeps, it's the Hillbilly Halfwit today. How are you? Sorry, it's been a few days since I've done one of these. I've just been so busy at home with sheep and other things. I've only been able to do small video ones off my phone. So what we got today is what's going on in Ireland. The Irish are being forced to have an EU migration pact. I noticed this the other day, but I just had to look into it a bit more before I went a bit further, and I haven't had the time. So let's get going. But before you get going, please comment and subscribe. Get down there, press that button, because as you know, I've been having some trouble with YouTube and they're trying to suppress my stuff after the pigs in the trough video. Let's get going. Now, I've got two little things to show you before we get to this rest of this bit. There's Starmer. He's been on about how his dad is a tool maker. Well, I agree. His dad did make the biggest tool, most useless tool ever. But it seems like Starmer's father admitted he was the owner of a tool-making factory. So he wasn't working, he was the owner of the factory. I've got nothing against businesses and owners of a factory, but I think if you start telling lies, you're a bit of not a good one indeed. So there's that, have a read of that. And there's something for lots of the people that watch me are going to vote reform. I hadn't decided, but I tell you what, people on here commenting, and even my missus have almost made me decide to vote reform in Wales, and I wasn't going to. So he put up a thing yesterday, a boost to the farming budget, greater protection for farmland and a fairer supply chain are among the promises being made by Reform and Nigel Farage as part of the pre-election manifesto. Productive land must be farmed, not used for solar farms or rewilding. I like that. I've said this before. I am a member of no party whatsoever. I'm so disgusted about the way Plaid and Labour have been attacking farming. That's why I was going to vote Conservative in Wales, because I think they're a different party to the English Conservatives. The leader was a farmer, but since he said this bit at the bottom, productive land must be farmed, not used for solar farms or rewilding, I got to say that has put me right on the line. So watch this space. Right, let's get going. Ireland have been having a hell of a time lately with migration being pushed on them, and basically there's rioting all over the place there, and it's been suppressed by the media, like the farming rioting. Now, the other day, I noticed a video somebody put up, and then I looked a little bit more into it, and Ireland are fast-tracking a law through for EU Migration Pact. Now, the bits they're talking about seem like it's okay. So, legislation to allow for Irish citizens to be revoked will be brought before the Dáil this week. But when you look into this, that could be an Irish citizen who's been there all his life and has just decided to protest against this. Minister of Justice Helen McEntee tells Cabinet that the process would only be applied in very limited circumstances. We would be when someone was given citizenship of the state and is later deemed to pose a threat. Now, my libertarian beliefs look at this and I think, warning, 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 that will not be used on any asylum seeker. That will be used on Irish citizens who are not going with what the state wants. So if they're campaigning or trying to become a politician or something to try and get on to stop this mass immigration into Ireland, they can remove their blooming citizenship. It's pretty scary stuff. And also, what I've looked in all this, I know this is true. This new EU Migration Pact will fine Ireland. EU will fine Ireland £20,000 per person that is not allowed to enter. So that isn't being said in the literature. So this is what's happening to the UK. We think we're outside the EU, but our civil service is still, we're in the Migration Pact. And that's why nobody from the civil service wants to stop all this mass migration and boat people. McEntee will bring the measures to the Cabinet as part of the range of matters related to immigration, including the EU Migration and Asylum Pact. The EU Pact will allow for fingerprinting photographing of new migrants coming into the country and the bolstering of border security. Now, it all sounds lovely until you hear that they can remove Irish citizens from their own country for any reason, really. They won't remove that asylum seeker. You know that, and I know that. Government to fast-track EU law, the Migration Pact, into Irish law. There's already one there from 2015, but this is to basically update it so they can stop people protesting. Now, this is expected to be decided on Tuesday, and they're going to push it through. She will argue that the Act, which is less than a decade old, is no longer fit for purpose. It's not fit for purpose because the population of Ireland are saying we don't want it. We don't want this mass immigration, and now they're creating a law. The EU is forcing the Irish government to create a law that can pay fines for not having the migrants enter there to start with, and remove people who campaign against it. They say this, but this isn't true. There will be a greater focus on returning unsuccessful applicants to their home countries or to other European countries they have travelled through, and a new solidarity mechanism to give greater support to countries such as Italy and Greece that are on the front line of migration pressures. This will not come in effect in 2026, until 2026. McCarthy is also expected to seek approval for introducing separate changes in law to increase the current maximum carrier liability fine for airlines from £3,000 to £5,000 per person where they have failed to ensure passengers have appropriate documentation. Now listen to this here. I only just noticed this. The minister will also tell a meeting that additional 400 staff will be employed in the international protection system in the next 12 months and will also increase the target of decisions on applications from 1,100 per month to 1,800 per month. She said the department has sought tenders for a suitable provider for charter flight services and relevant support services such as ground support, catering, when required, medical assistance for passengers. I am committed to ensuring the state's immigration process are robust, effective and fair. The capacity of deportation and return processes are essential elements of any migration system. Don't be fooled. They are trying to replace the population, as they're doing in the UK, as in Scotland, as in Wales. That's why it's called the Migration Pact. I remember seeing this years and years ago, where a lady that used to work in the EU had made a video about this on YouTube. And she reckoned during the 1970s, when there was a fuel crisis, Saudi Arabia, there was a huge meeting, an OPEC meeting, and they agreed to give cheap fuel to the EU and UK as long as they accepted a huge percentage of migrants. It was called the EU Migration Pact. And that holds until up to present day. If you mention it, everybody calls you conspiracy theorist, but it's all out in the open now. Due to that reason that we were having cheap fuel for 20 to 30 years, we were supposed to accept something like 20% of more immigration from Africa and Saudi Arabia. That is the truth of it all. Anyway, sorry, I got a frog in my throat this afternoon. Separately, Minister for Housing Dar O'Brien will brief the meeting that guidelines he introduced in 2021 have prevented 50,000 homes from being bulk purchased. In May 2021, the new planning guidelines were introduced to prevent the bulk purchase or sale of homes. It came in response to disclosures that investment companies were buying tranches of new homes to rent. Now, I assume this is because of migration again. All these thousands and thousands of people coming in, and these huge companies or civil service are buying these areas and then renting them out to these people and forcing areas to be multicultural. There's a bit down below yours also in this article. I don't know a lot about it, but you know it all sounds pretty totalitarian to me. Minister for Health Stephen Donnelly will also seek approval for an infant respiratory syncytial virus (RSV) immunisation programme This follows advice from the National Immunisation Advisory Committee. There is already an RSV program in place for at-risk babies, but this would extend the program to an estimated 28,000 babies born during the RSV season. I don't know nothing at all about that. I'm not going to talk about that. But if some of you on here know anything about that, feel free to comment. So I'm sorry I've slowed down a little bit on the videos this last week. It's just getting a bit too busy on the farm, and I'm having a job to put one out a day at the moment. So, okay, keep up, and thank you very much for listening and watching, and please subscribe and press the button below. Ta-da!